everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the Queen Ahmadiyyah TV show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time I go live. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah. You can also follow the Queen Ahmadiyyah fan page, and you can find me on Twitter at dgoddess27. Okay, so let's get into it. And so two men described as leaders of a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer were thrilled as they watched videos of powerful explosives just a few hours before driving north to scout her vacation home. And this is according to an FBI investigation or an FBI's testimony on Monday. So in summer of 2020, Tim Bates was working undercover as Red when he fooled the group into believing that he knew someone in the mining industry who could get high-grade explosives. Now, a bomb is a key part of the government's case against Adam Fox, Barry Croft Jr., Daniel Harris, and Brandon Caserta, who are charged with conspiring to kidnap Whitmer because of her tough, stupid 19 policies and their broad disgust with the government. Now, they had actually planned and plotted to kidnap the governor and take her to her own vacation home and then try her for treason. And if found guilty, well, they planned on killing her. Now, whole domestic terrorists, pay attention. Now, prosecutors say Fox especially wanted to blow up a bridge under Whitmer's second home in northern Michigan to thwart any police response to the kidnapping. I mean, he was planning way ahead. Like, so the police would be able to get there quickly. He was going to just try to blow up the whole bridge. Now, Bates, who was secretly recording conversations, said that he showed up for a training weekend in Luther, Michigan, and shared videos of explosives blowing up an SUV. He says Mr. Fox was excited about what he saw in the video. This is what Bates told the jury, adding that Croft was also very excited. Clearly devils. Now, traveling in 3 vehicles, Bates said that he, Fox, Croft, and others drove to Elk Rapids to look at Whitmer's house on Birch Lake and to inspect a nearby bridge. Why were they doing this? That's what the assistant U.S. attorney, Niles Kessler, wanted to know. So he said to kidnap her, plain and simple. Croft told the group that he needed to take a nap to have energy if they were going to abduct Whitmer that night. But that wasn't the plan, says Bates. So later, after returning to the Luther camp, Fox asked Bates if he would take an IOU for the $4,000 of explosives, according to records. Now, Monday was the 11th day of trial. The prosecutors plan to finish presenting the evidence this week. And so Ty Garbin and Caleb Franks, 2 other men who were arrested in October of 2020, they've already pleaded guilty and were critical witnesses for the government last week. So they've already made deals, supposedly. And so Garbin said Whitmer's kidnapping could ignite a U.S. civil war involving anti-government groups and possibly prevent Joe Biden from winning the presidential election, they said. Now, defense attorneys denied there was an actual plan to get Whitmer, claiming the men were improperly influenced by undercover agents and informants and they exchanged wild talk while often smoking marijuana. So saying that it was just all cap, they weren't really going to do this. Let me tell you something, honey. If they weren't really going to kidnap this woman and plan all this, they would have been A, looking for explosives and how to use them, and B, they wouldn't have went and scoped out and scouted out her vacation home. All right? And then C, they wouldn't have had everything set in place. I mean, even down to the fact that they wanted to blow up a bridge near her home so the police could make a hasty response. So Whitmer, a Democrat, rarely talks publicly about the case, though she referred to surprises during her term that seemed like something out of fiction when she filed for a re-election on March 17th. She has blamed former President Donald Trump for fomenting anger against stupid 19 restrictions and refusing to condemn right-wing extremists like those charged in the case. Whitmer has said that Trump was complicit in the January the 6th riots. So I don't know if he was complicit, but I don't think he had any complaints about it. as he saw that his people were clearly fighting for him, right? So I'm sure he wasn't too upset about that. Now, man and Governor Whitmer kidnap plot says no one twisted our arms. So a second insider into a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer told jurors on Thursday that the group was prepared to use a grenade launcher and machine gun to fight security officers at her vacation home. I mean, they were all full-fledged ready, right? They had everything set in place. Clearly nefarious. Now, Caleb Franks, who pleaded guilty in February, backed up many points offered a day earlier by Ty Garbin, another man who admitted a role in a wild scheme to abduct Whitmer and somehow take her by boat out to Lake Michigan. Franks, who's 27 years old, was an alleged leader. Adam Fox believed Whitmer's Stupid 19 restrictions were tyrannical and that the U.S. Constitution gave the men a right to strike back. He said no one was forced to stick with the plan and many people had dropped away by late summer of 2020. I was going to be an operator, Franks replied when asked by a prosecutor to describe his role in the kidnapping. He says, I would be one of the people on the front line, so to speak, using my gun. Now, he said Fox talked about snatching the governor every time I saw him. This is what he says. Fox, Barry Croft Jr., Danielle Harris, and Brandon Caserta are all on trial in the federal court in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now, along with Franks and Garbin, the four were arrested in October of 2020, a month before the national elections. Now, Garbin, age 26, testified Wednesday at Whitmer's kidnapping. That Whitmer's kidnapping could serve as the ignition for a U.S. civil war involving anti-government groups and possibly prevent the election of Joe Biden. So that's what they were thinking and what they were absolutely hoping for. Now, authorities said the men were armed extremists who, after weeks of training, were trying to come up with $4,000 for an explosive. They practiced that summer by dashing in and out of crude structures built to resemble a house or office. Now, traveling at night, they scouted Whitmer's second home in Elk Rapids in September of 2020 and inspected a bridge that could be blown up to frustrate any police response, according to trial testimony and conversations that were secretly recorded by the FBI informant. And so they say Croft discussed attacking her security detail. He said he would use the grenade launcher that he had, and he was discussing mounting a machine gun on top of the truck. Franks, a drug rehabilitation coach, said he joined a militia called the Wolverine Watchman. He joined to work on his gun skills. He eventually met Fox and Croft, who were not only members of the militia, and found himself in the middle of a conspiracy. Now, Frank said he stuck with the group because he hoped he would be killed in a shootout with police during the kidnapping, but he kept that from the others. So he wanted to be killed, death by cop. Is that what he says? He says, I no longer wanted to live. Moments after settling to the witness chair, this is what he said. A large portion of my family had died. I was struggling financially, just wasn't happy. Now, defense attorneys are trying to show that the jury that there was no credible plots, just a lot of profane violence and crazy talk about Whitmer and other politicians trampling their rights during the Stupid 19 pandemic. They also claim informants and undercover agents who infiltrated the group entrapped the men. Now, during questioning by the defense, Garbin said there was discussion about taking Whitmer by boat to Lake Michigan after kidnapping her, then dumping the motor into the water and leaving her to drift. I mean, just all so heinous, honey. They really had it all mapped out, or so they thought. But Garbin also acknowledged that the group didn't have a boat lined up and wasn't certain how they would get back to shore while the governor floated solo. They said the purpose of this was to be a massive inconvenience, right? Because she would just get picked up on the lake. This is what Croft defense attorney Joshua Blanchard, referring to the rescue, that's what he said. Now, they say at some points that would have been the case. So Garvin, an airplane mechanic, began cooperating with prosecutors soon after the group was arrested. He was rewarded with a relatively light 6-year sentence, a term that could be reduced after the trial even. Now, Frank hasn't been sentenced yet, but is also hoping for a break. Whitmer, a Democrat, rarely talks publicly about the case, though she referred to surprises during her term that seemed like something out of fiction, while she filed for re-election on March 17th. Now, she has blamed former Donald Trump, former president, for fomenting anger over the stupid 19 restrictions and refusing to condemn right-wing extremists like those charged in the case. Whitmer has said Trump was complicit in the January 6th riots. Well, he could have been. I don't know. They said clearly that he was telling people to fight for their rights. So those people had already showed up to fight. As far as I'm concerned, they already came with their explosive devices, their guns and ammunition. They already came there with their bear spray and their pepper spray and all of that. So they clearly came there to rumble. And all they needed was for Trump to give them the go-ahead, and that's exactly what they did. They went ahead and stormed the Capitol, wreaking havoc, mischief, and mayhem. And many of them are not going to get the consequences that they should. They should all be charged as domestic terrorists, because that's what they did. They literally tried to overthrow this government, but that's not what they're going to be charged with, right? And so, the lamestream media will continue to paint narratives that, at the end of the day, these people who stormed the Capitol were just upset about the election. And, they didn't really do anything so bad. So let's not call them domestic terrorists. Let's just say some of them went a little bit too far. That's how they like to try to paint those pictures. But honey, at the end of the day, they were all nefarious and should absolutely be charged and tried as domestic terrorists. That's just what it is. They literally tried to overthrow this own government. And if there had been a group of Black people, I'm sure the charges would have been much more serious than what they are now. Okay? So everyone, please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. And I hope to talk to you all again soon. Peace.